Hi, this is Steve Dembowski at WFDU Teaneck. Welcome to another episode of Dembo's Den, brought to you by Lifelong Learning at FDU, where everyone can come back and learn. My special guest today is FDU President Michael Avaltroni. How are you, sir?
Doing very well. Nice to be here.
It's a long time waiting for you to come and be a guest. I'm looking forward to this half-hour show. So, in light of that, I'm not going to go into your tremendous background with all your U.S. patents that you contributed to and your multiple publications that you have in your background. My starting question is, you are the proud graduate of FDU. It's encompassed your whole circle. You graduated here with a chemistry background, degree, summa cum laude, and you're a graduate of 1999. Okay? I'm going to throw some dates out to you as we proceed, but how has your background in chemistry prepared you for the position that you hold and the seat that you sit in now representing Fairleigh Dickinson?
That's a great question. So it's been a long journey here at FDU. This place was the place that got me my start and transformed my life. So it's always a joy to be back here and seeing that through the eyes of new students. But, you know, the interesting thing about my degree in chemistry is it's been a long time since I've been in the lab. It's been a long time since I've been doing experiments. But I always say that much of what you learn as a chemist and in the lab are really the ways to evaluate data, to evaluate and think sort of experimentally and scientifically and approach problems in a way that's very linear and very structured and very much strategic in the approach. And so that's the stuff that I really take with me and actually use every day. And in fact, I've stayed in touch with my graduate advisor, and we've talked over the years, and I've said that the further I've gotten from the lab, the further I've gotten from chemistry in some respects, the more I find myself using the things that I learned with him, which was about really thinking about the problems that are in front of you and the ways that you can tackle them strategically in an approach that makes sense, but also is data-driven. And so a lot of what we do, whether it's deciding about the future of the university or making decisions around programs and expansions and other things, all of that stems back from that scientific method that was very much the foundation of my training here at FDU.
And that was your foundation, experimental, going down one road, seeing if this works, and then changing the molecules maybe and just working it that way.
It is. It's all, you know, it's all about kind of, in some respects, play, right? In a sense of you go in and you try something. I remember my grad advisor used to say paper chemistry works the first time every time, which means you write it up and you draw it up in 2 dimensions and you think it's going to work and then you go dump it all and see what happens. And a lot of that is what life's about. A lot of that's what leadership is about. It's thinking about how you've drawn something out as a best laid plan that you feel will work. But the most important part of thinking about the problem isn't assuming you have the answer from day one, but actually building it as you go and realizing that a lot of times what you expect to happen doesn't. The things that you're surprised by in some respects take you in new directions. And most of the time, more often than not in life, when you're on this journey, you find that the product that you deliver on and that you've built actually exceeds what you probably would have had in your mind, but maybe looks very different.
Excellent. I'll tell you, it's the way you place it, and you're able to move these pieces around because they're not solid. They're fluid, and then you go, you got a plan, you and your team have a plan, and you evaluate it, and then you reevaluate it and move forward. Excellent. And that you brought up something, has since being at the helm, since April 26, 23, you know, 2.5 years has flown by. It's like unbelievable. Your priorities moving forward from that first day to now, have they shifted? Have they changed in any shape and form, as you say?
You know, I think that there's a certain aspect of it from day one that is still here and still very strong today. We talked about from day one really thinking about putting students first and thinking about the ways that we as a university have really thrived on that premise. And I'm living proof of that. I'm an example. I know you are as well of that experience, right?
I was going to bring
and so I think that is the sort of guiding light. That's the center point. That's the North Star. the direction that we've been taking to really begin to deliver that to a new generation of students, I think has changed over time and evolved. And I would be pleased to say, I think evolved for the better. You know, we started early on to begin thinking about where we could go to really tackle the problem that higher education at large is facing, which is trying to be everything to everyone and not sustainably being able to do so with excellence, not being able to do so financially, not being able to do so with all of the supports that you need for new generations of students. And so we realized that a lot of that meant for us redefining and kind of leaning into the things that we felt that the university was strong in, was successful at, and most importantly, we're going to set up a new generation of students with opportunities to be ready to hit the ground running from day one when they graduate, to seek out this life-transforming opportunity that we know that college can provide. So that led us down the road of really thinking about our strategy and what it would look like if we began leading into health adjacent, and professionally focused programs at the core. And it was just so happened that a lot of my learning over the past decade prior came from building and creating all of our health science programs in pharmacy, physician assistant studies, occupational therapy, social work, public health, which were all new programs that we created from day one and allowed us to do this build out in a way that really was forward thinking about the future of healthcare and how we could prepare graduates for that day. And as we began to see the momentum we were building around those things and the opportunities we were creating to students, we realized that that had an opportunity to be really a flagship piece to the strategy for the institution going forward. And it allowed us to build these very robust partnerships with healthcare entities, with other 2- and 4-year institutions, with high schools, with other entities within the healthcare space, to really begin to leverage and take this opportunity to really bring the university to new places.
It's like building alliances with the community, which we do. We're going to talk about that down the road. But, you know, you're building your collaborations with the stakeholders, letting them know what FDU can provide for them. Yeah. And that's huge. And you brought up something about higher ed is always constantly evolving, and there's so many challenges that colleges and universities are facing, but you're being aggressive. You're being proactive. I've seen it for the last 8 years. I came from a whole different world, and I see it now. You're visible on campus, so that's an asset in itself to you.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I sort of said from day one in this role and really just throughout the course of the last decade or so was that, you know, there are very few things that I can give people assurances about, but the assurance I could give more than anything was that our inability to change and evolve with the times meant that we were going to be on a path towards obsolescence, right? And so I say I don't have all the right answers. I frankly don't even know if what we're saying today will still be relevant in a year or 2 years or 5 years, but I do know that staying the course and sitting back and watching is a recipe for a path that none of us want to go down. And I know as an institution, we have all of these opportunities to really build from the strengths that we've created here over the last 80 plus years, and more recently over the past decade of growth and strategy. So we've started to say, let's lean into the things that we know that we're about. We've always been a place that's been very adaptable, that's always been very nimble, that's always created programs in many respects to really meet students where they are. In some cases, going to throughout the state or throughout the region, going to the learners and actually building programs there, creating programs for non-traditional aged and non-traditional path students. That's been our legacy. So part of it is really not creating something new as much as it is to lean back into a lot of the things we were founded on, but to modify them for a new day and a new season that we know is very rapidly changing.
And I think going back, I think that was Dr. Sammartino's vision, you know, with the military, how he created that in Rutherford, at the Rutherford campus, and how that moved internationally, but brought a lot of these veterans back to the desk to learn for their next move. But that's you, in a nutshell. You've gone to Ocean County, you've gone to Monmouth County. I know you have done all those miles on your car.
Yeah, it's interesting because one of the things that early on, from the first months I was in the role, I did some reading around Peter Sammartino's story and read his books and studied what the institution really was founded on. And it was fascinating because one of the words he used before it was fashionable and had a different connotation was that he wanted this to be a community college. But we know of community college in a different term now. We think of them as the two-year institutions that play a very important role in the higher ed ecosystem. But really, he was implying it to be something different, to be a college or an institution that was of and for the communities and people of New Jersey. And that's a very important legacy that I think in some respects over the years we've run from, but actually it's the thing that we were founded on. It's in our DNA. And now more than ever, it's relevant not just to connect students within our communities to a university, but to connect our university to those communities around us where education would be game-changing, would be impactful, and in some respects to really reimagine even what our college campuses are, to not just be these places you come around only if you have a need to study here, but to think about them through the lens of intergenerational communities of lifelong learning. And that becomes a part of the strategy going forward, and we feel like connected to health, connected to well-being, connected to that whole person vibrancy that higher education seeks to build. We have opportunities to do some, I think, very imaginative, very impactful, and very, very substantial things to really set a very bright course for our future.
Well, I think the word that you touched upon is connected. That's the word that the community looks at, and to be connected to the university. And you as a Beacon, as an alum, as a proud alum, mentioning that if a parent comes up to you and say, why should someone come to Fairleigh? You don't have to look into a book. You don't have to look into the President Handbook and say, I'll tell you why. Because I came here, this is what I've done. Look at the people that I went to school with. Look what they have done. And you're not talking just, fabricating. You're telling the facts.
Yeah. And the two things I remembered from the first time I set foot on campus as a student here at 18 years old, the first was that it was the people and that feeling and sense of community, being surrounded by people who I felt really were vested in my success, right? Weren't just here to pull a 9-to-5 to cash a check. They wanted to see me succeed. They took pride in my successes and my accomplishments. They took pride in investing in me and giving above and beyond what was part of the job description. And the second thing from day one was that I always felt that this place's best days lied ahead. And I still feel that today, maybe more than ever, that the opportunities that abound for this university, in some cases, the potential, some of it unharnessed and untapped to this point, I think it puts for us an opportunity in front of us to really define and seize an opportunity to really embrace the true fullness of what an FDU education can be and around what Fairleigh Dickinson University can be for a new generation, not just of students, but of the communities of New Jersey we serve.
Now, I'll tell you, I have a question I'm going to ask you, but for our listeners, I am talking to the president of Fairleigh Dickinson University, Michael Avaltroni, and he is my guest today on Dembo's Den. Besides us beating Purdue in the NCAA tournament, has there been any other surprises that have come across your table since being appointed as president? Well, we were out there together.
That was a high one, and I wasn't expecting 2 months in to this run to be chasing a basketball team 600 miles to go on their run.
And we could talk about your miles going back and forth, but let's see any surprises besides that since then.
I think there have been a couple of things that I think were in some respects surprises, in some respects thinking about it, maybe not all that surprising. One was really the I would say the buy-in and the belief that the communities had in me and in the institution. And really, as you speak to more and more people and hear their story and their connection to the university, to realize how many people believe in what we do, right? And to hear from the lens of someone in admissions or someone in student advising or someone on the faculty, really their belief in our students and their belief in our future, I think, is something that was reassuring to me. It was refreshing to me. And in some respects, it was a little surprising because through the years, sometimes you realize that there have been some challenging times, both for the institution, but also for higher education writ large. And I think that hearing how much people are bought into our mission and what we're about and what we're doing was certainly a very pleasant surprise. More recently, I would say, and not so much a surprise, but my oldest has followed in my footsteps and became an FDU student and walked the stage at commencement. And that was a very nice surprise to see, more than anything, her journey here and to see her emotion as she walked across the stage during commencement, realizing how much of an impact her time here had on her. I think that was somewhat surprising as well, because I always say, when they say the days are short, but the years are long, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you realize that in the day-to-day, you see the here and now of, her go driving to campus or coming back and forth or taking classes.
Or you driving her to campus.
Right. Oh, been there, done that as well. But all of it, then when you see it additive over years, the impact that it had on her journey and setting the path for her future, it was really eye-opening to me. And in some respects, it gave me a newfound energy about how much of a role we play on investing in the lives of our students.
So a lot of the questions that these parents approach you with, you're coming from a basis, if I could assume, as an FDU student, alumni. So some of your decisions, can I safely assume, are based on that, on your past memories and thoughts and how you got here?
Yeah. I think, one of the things, things are so different, of course, now than they were when I graduated in 1999, which is now, a quarter of a century or longer, even though I don't like to say that too loud. But, as you start to think about the realities of what students need now more than ever in the sort of opportunities for making college affordable and making college something that sets them on a path towards career sustaining and career transforming opportunities, all of this is new, but all of it is steeped really in the very things that I experienced as a student. Maybe looking very different, maybe feeling very different, maybe the experience being very different. But all of it really at the core comes down to what I think we do very well, which is that we create these opportunities for our students to really find themselves, right? And I think in many respects, thinking about the future and planning for the future and creating these programs and new things that we're doing, all of it is linked to, I think, that legacy of really providing students these paths towards what I believe is a very, very opportune and bright future for them.
You truly believe it. You lived it. You had trials and tribulations as a freshman. Obviously, we all did. I know I did, and I went to the Rutherford campus, and I'm glad you didn't ask me when I graduated, but, we could always talk offline about that. But, and again, you're talking from a point of reference as a student, and now as a proud parent, as I am, our daughters both graduated in the rain, all right, but you're coming from another stance. So when these parents say, why should we come to Fairleigh, you have every table covered, basically, from student to proud parent.
Yeah, and I think the thing that I'm always proudest of in all of those stories to share is that I've seen the impact that higher education, and in particular an FDU education, has had. Because as I shared in my own story, I came here, I always share the story with people on because it's, I think, a very FDU story. Somehow I was supposed to be able to register amongst one of the first groups. They lost my registration card or something happened. I ended up registering last, ended up taking whatever courses were left and opened. And that set me on a trajectory towards my future, because it was what required me to take a freshman chemistry class that became, in the first 5 weeks, the decision point to why I wanted to change my major and pursue that as a path. And, in some respects, I saw that journey in my own daughter as well, that sometimes it was not the planned, but some of the unplanned things that really are part of the college discovery process, right? That I think enough is not said about really the best thing in some respects that college does for young people in particular is it allows them to find a whole lot about themselves that they may not know. And, you think about, I always share the story of in June, you're in high school and you're still asking for a hall pass to use the bathroom. And come August, you're now responsible for living on your own, doing your own laundry, showing up and getting up in the morning to come to class and doing all your own assignments. What happens in those 2 months? And the answer is not a whole lot. But what happens during the next 4 years is that transformation where really someone becomes free-thinking, self-sustaining, self-sufficient, and guided adult. And that journey is something that is nurtured by every person that they're experiencing something from here, whether it's another student, whether it's a faculty member, whether it's a staff member, whether it's someone on the grounds crew that has a pleasant interaction. All of that is what we do. And when we do it well and we get it right, you see the impact and you see it transform truly every portion of a person's life.
I tell you, when I come across with students, when I'm on campus for open house, be it whatever, the campus has transformed. There is no trash anywhere. Everything is trimmed, and the people are visible as you are. You are visible at these open houses. You are visible walking around, meeting these students and parents. So that's a plus right there.
Yeah, and the thing I think people look for that, right? They want to see that from the leadership on down, that there's a common commitment to the cause, right? The worst part of leadership to me on any front is to tell people what to do and not walk the walk, right? To me, it's always
just don't wear the hat.
Right, part of servant leadership, right? You go first, and then everybody else you expect to follow you in a sense of you shouldn't ask people to do things you wouldn't do yourself. So if it's open house, I want to be the first one in and the last one out. But part of it as well is it's fulfilling for me because it reminds me amidst all of the challenges of higher education leadership, and it's a difficult job at a difficult time, it reminds me why we're here, right? And I always say that that's the points of the candle lighting when first-year students are coming on campus, or at move-in day, or commencement, or other times. They're reminders of why we're all here, because frankly, if we're not doing it for the students, there are plenty of other things all of us could be doing and probably finding more fulfillment, but for the fact that that's our opportunity to be reminded that we're making a living product here, and the impact of what we do is seen in real time in this evolution and transformation of our students.
It's tangible. The organizational culture that starts with you starts with someone. If someone's at the counter, Dr. Sammartino said, I don't care if you're 30 minutes or 30 years. If there's someone at that counter, I want you up there talking to that person and guiding that person, be it a freshman or even a senior. That's what it's community service, basically. And you present that, you walk around with that, with that genre all the time. And that's important. But get back to your daughter. How proud are you that she graduated and now doing community service? I know you and I talked about this, when we have our little pecan pie once in the morning. But tell us about what she's doing.
Yeah, so she has found her way here. She came in not sure of her path, not sure of what she wanted to do. It reminds me of my own story of the sort of lost registration card. In some respects, she found her way through actually a career-ending injury as a dancer, where she ended up dislocating her knee and was taken by ambulance to what was her last dance at that time. But in that ride in the ambulance, she found her way to conversation with the EMTs and realized that was what she was passionate about. And so she pursued, over her course of studies here, a change in major. She was a psychology major who really wanted to focus more on health sciences. She became an EMT. She went through our township courses. She's now a riding member of our township ambulance squad. She now just started a new job in Jersey Shore Medical doing patient care. And now she wants to go back for her advanced degree in the healthcare realm. And so, part of it is that pride of seeing her find her way. And part of it is that pride also in realizing that her story, like mine, came through really that journey of educating herself, right? Of investing the time to really discover what she was passionate about, the things she loved, the things that she felt she could be called to as a career, and the things that she found fulfillment in. And so she's doing that now. She's thriving. Keeps me up a little at nights because riding on an ambulance squad has its challenges. She did deliver a baby last week in township, so she's doing things.
Like
she's got her stork pin is on the way. And so there's all of these stories she gets to tell of things, some of which are a little scary, some of which are exciting.
And she probably doesn't tell you all of it.
It probably better for both of us. Yes, I think it's better for both of us.
But being proud and some sleepless nights goes with it. We got like 6 minutes to go. I just want to read this to you, and then I want you to expand on it. It is truly the honor of a lifetime that I have been chosen to lead this institution. I am optimistic that our institution's best days lie ahead. I am proud to set forth on a path forward with you, this amazing FDU family, as we chart a course for the future. I fully believe that together we can deliver on our institutional promise to provide students the opportunity to seize the moment and change their world. I look forward to taking this journey with each of you, and I'm excited to see what lies ahead for this wonderful university. Familiar words, right, boss?
I hope so. They sounded good, so
It's you. You said that. Now, we got about 5 minutes left. What is your vision and goals for us in the next coming months to lead as the new semester is approaching?
So we've really been excited over the past year. We've been on this journey to begin thinking about the future of the university, really reinventing FDU for a new season, a new day, a new chapter. And part of that was the launch this past spring of a strategy called Health Path Forward. It really revolves around three key components: education at the core of our mission, innovation, and community. The education components, I always say, what we really, I think, do very well is we create this environment where we become the center of a vibrant ecosystem of education that includes partners across the spectrum, from high schools to community colleges to other four-year institutions, to workforce providers and the employers. And we have this opportunity to be at the center point to really create programs and create pathways for students that allow for open doors into a very bright future. So we are leaning, as I shared before, really heavily into health adjacent and professionally focused programs at the core. The good news in that is that that does not only mean people who are seeking to be healthcare practitioners, because as we know, there's a limited number of those, and many people don't feel called to a career in nursing or physician assistant or other pathways therein. But health adjacent really captures a lot of what our institution is about, because health care is a service industry. It's also an industry that has innovation and entrepreneurship. It has business components. So we started to look at what if we started to really recalibrate some of our programming to think of it from a healthcare focused lens. An example being our hospitality program. Hospitality is relevant in food and beverage and in other events hospitality, but the aspects of healthcare hospitality are oftentimes neglected. And frankly, how you're treated in a healthcare facility is often more impactful than the care itself. And so we started to look at what if we began a focus around thinking about healthcare as a hospitality exercise? What if we started to look at the business side of healthcare? What if we started to really look at healthcare finance, healthcare entrepreneurship, healthcare innovation, and all of these types of programmings, like engineering, computer science? You can see the linkages can go endlessly. And as we think about humanities and social sciences, the aspects of the human condition in an automated world is becoming more relevant than ever. So teaching our students to be true humanists in the sense of the form where they understand others and they have empathy and they treat others with care and kindness are things that we can teach through our classes and through lived examples that we feel really create this vibrant educational environment. We're also looking at creating things like our Learn While You Earn pathway, which allows students to begin working careers in health or health-related fields and actually upskill themselves through a degree, oftentimes paid for or compensated by their employer, that allows them to continue to engage in some meaningful work, allows them to draw a salary and address the affordability issue, but to do so in a path towards upskilling themselves and climbing a career ladder. We've begun programs in our Education Anywhere platform, which allows us to actually deliver education by truly meeting learners where they are in time, in space, and in life, by actually going to sites that we partner with to deliver educational programs on site. We have a site, for example, down in Monmouth County at Bell Works. We have another site at the park in Berkeley Heights. We have sites in partnership with Novartis, with Merck, with Fiserv, and with Barclays, all where we've stood up programs there to educate cohorts of students on their terms and on their time. So it's an exciting journey for us. The other aspects that we're really, I think, enthusiastic about connecting is to the innovation piece, particularly connecting communities of health through technology and innovation, which allows people more robustly to age in place and to have higher quality access to care in their home and in their community, taking some of the clinical aspects away from a clinical setting and moving them to be delivered more comprehensively. And then the last part of the vision is to link this all to a comprehensive strategy around reimagining our campuses as truly immersive, lifelong learning communities of health. Thinking about new aspects of partnership, whether it's things like university-based retirement living, whether it's things like early career housing, connecting opportunities for our students to the surrounding healthcare communities, and doing this all with a lens of strategy that we believe tells the story about our greatest assets, our greatest vision, and our greatest strengths, and connecting them to the future.
I think you summed it up perfectly. President Avaltroni, I appreciate you being here on Dembo's Den. Great time seeing you. And that wraps up another episode of Dembo's Den. Thank you.